Make your characters realistic. If they're not realistic, they're not good characters. No one will like them. In fact, they'll hate the character. And you, for making such a terrible character. You have failed as a writer and a creator and will forever be mocked for it. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but it's not an exaggeration to say that anytime you ask, how do I make a good character, you're told, make them realistic. But is that really true? I mean, think for a moment. You know those classic Disney villains? The Maleficents, the Ursulas, the Scars? People loved those villains, so much so that they're disillusioned with the new villains that Disney's been creating. Were these villains realistic? No. Do people love them anyway? Yeah. For another example, think of literally any shonen protagonist ever. You want to tell me Goku is a realistic character? Nah. But is he extremely popular and well-loved anyway? Yeah. So much so that for decades afterwards, shonen heroes were modeled after him. So clearly, characters can be well-loved, good characters without needing to be realistic. So how do they work? Now, before we get into the meat of that argument, we need to first answer two questions. One, what is a realistic character? And two, why do people say that characters should be realistic? A realistic character is generally defined as a character who acts like a real person. Their way of thinking and internal logic functions the same way that you would expect most people to. This can be displayed through a number of different methods, from how they react to the world around them to what kind of relationships they have. The push for realistic characters has more than likely stemmed from the increased demand for realism in writing. The realism movement focuses on portraying our world as it is, rather than applying any fantastical lens to it. Everything is expected to work on a form of logic that is similar to the logic that exists in our world, from characters to actual literal magic. Like any artistic movement, it has its purpose and its place in our culture, but I do feel that there have been some negative impacts on creatives as well. But that's a discussion for later. We're talking about characters specifically. So why do unrealistic characters work? There are a couple of different ways, but there is one core reason behind it all. Internal consistency. Regardless of how odd or wacky the decisions a character makes, as long as they're internally consistent, an audience will be willing to write off all manner of strange behavior as that's just how they work. This relies on the audience's suspension of disbelief, where they understand that what they are reading is a work of fiction, and as such, won't necessarily follow our world's logic. Let's get into some examples of this in action, starting with my favorite character of all time, Seto Kaiba, my beloved. Kaiba is the rival character in Yu-Gi-Oh!, an anime about children's card games determining the fate of the world. This series is already pretty absurd with advanced tech and actual magic at play, so the audience is already prepared for some disbelief suspension. This comes into full swing with Mr. Seto, you're doing what with your money, Kaiba? Looking at his actions from a purely logical standpoint, nothing he does makes sense. He loses in a card game to some kid with spiky hair, becomes so obsessed with defeating him that he devotes the entirety of his spare time to it. The spirit of an ancient pharaoh he has a rivalry with eventually passes on. Build a machine to transport him to the afterlife so he can keep challenging him. Start up a space program? Obviously he uses this to teach aliens how to duel. All of this seems nonsensical, but if you take a step back, you'll realize that Kaiba is very consistent. His pride is centered around his skill as a duelist, so when he loses, he feels the only way to regain his lost pride is to defeat the one he lost to, even if it means following him to the actual afterlife. He has enough resources to do it, after all. And why does he teach the aliens how to duel? Because it's a skill he highly values. All of these decisions, while absurd to us, are internally consistent within Kaiba himself, so we believe it, despite how unrealistic it is. For a second example, let's pull Carrot, a character from Guards from the Discworld series. Carrot is just a dwarf, trying to make an honest living in the big city as part of the City Watch. At least, that's what he thinks he is. In reality, he is 100% human and also 100% the one true king of the city that he lives in. He does figure out the former, but not the latter. Now, that premise already sounds absurd for a character. How can someone not even realize what species they are? And how can someone not realize they're a chosen king? Well, that's because it's the Discworld that we're talking about. The series is a fantasy satire, so it regularly deals with irony and absurdities like that. And since readers know this, they're already in a state of suspended disbelief and are more willing to accept Carrot's strange behavior. Beyond just that, we again see Carrot's own internal consistency come into play. He's very genuine and earnest, despite his bull-in-a-china shop appearance. Everything he does with the utmost best intentions, and because of that, the world responds accordingly. Of course, he's a bit dense, which both causes problems and creates solutions. He works and is incredibly endearing because of that behavior. For one final example, we'll be looking at Fushi from 2 Year Eternity, specifically Season 1. Fushi is an immortal being tasked with learning about humans and their behaviors. Despite the centuries he spends with them, Fushi never really becomes human. His logic and emotions are very much those of an ancient immortal being. It's written into his very character that Fushi seems just a little to the left. He's fundamentally not human after all. Forcing a character like Fushi to behave like a human would actually break the audience's suspensions, since the very premise is that he isn't. And once again, despite being non-human, Fushi still has the eternal consistency that we've seen throughout all of these characters. He was tasked to observe and learn about humans, and that is exactly what he does. Even if the decisions he makes seem alien to us or inevitably lead to tragedy, he consistently follows through with that one core value. So, to sum it all up, no, your characters don't need to be realistic to be well-loved, memorable, or even good characters. At the end of the day, fiction is fiction. It can reflect our reality and our world, but it doesn't have to. While there is value in holding up a mirror to our real experiences and exploring them in different contexts, it is every bit as valuable to explore completely alien experiences. The very nature of creation is its infinity, and applying arbitrary rules is counterintuitive and utterly unnecessary. Make your characters however realistic or unrealistic you damn well please. You'll be a better writer for it. Now then, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go take a nap. For God's sake, behind all this world we live in, this land is dictated supreme. There's no room for dreams, like sick of it seems, but hey, this is me, shooting past the